A U.S. military official has blown the whistle on how banks across America are about to close down, and the 2024 presidential election is going to be canceled. According to Colonel Douglas McGregor, the public needs to know that there will be a sudden closure of all major banks in the U.S. orchestrated by the elite, which will last for up to 3 weeks. Colonel McGregor also revealed that the 2024 election will be canceled due to martial law being imposed by the Biden regime. The elite have their ducks in a row, and they are ready to unleash hell on ordinary people to further the dystopian globalist agenda. So, what can we do to stop them? We've got the answers coming up. Before we dive in, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Join the People's Voice Locals community to gain access to uncensored content. And coming soon, you'll be able to claim your ownership stake in the People's Voice, earn profits, and have your say in editorial and business decisions. Visit Collective, thepeoplesvoice.tv to learn more. During a recent appearance on Patrick Bet-David's podcast, Colonel Douglas McGregor revealed that the globalist elites are orchestrating a plot to crash the banking industry, leading to a global financial meltdown. Why would they do this? Because their agenda is failing. The people are waking up, and they're getting increasingly desperate. You're absolutely right. I don't think we'll ever get to the 2024 election. I think things are going to implode in Washington before then. I think our economic and financial condition is fragile. It's going to come home to roost in ugly ways. I don't know exactly how it will happen. I think we're going to end up in a situation where we find out the banks are closed for 2 or 3 weeks, and nobody can get into them. You think so? I think we're going to run into something like that. Yeah. I also think that the levels of violence and criminality in our cities are so high that it's going to spill over into other places in society. People who normally think they can live remote from the problem are now beginning to be touched by the problem. Then I look at this thing in Ukraine. I think Ukraine is going to lose catastrophically. It's going to be a complete collapse, and that too is going to have an effect here at home because people are going to say, wait a minute, everybody told us Ukraine was winning. Everybody told us X, Y, and Z. I mean, sort of the Russian hoax on steroids. All of those things are going to come together or converge in some way that's going to prevent us from reaching the status quo. Oh, another election, oh, another set of campaigns, and so forth. What we are seeing is a push towards global government that is being camouflaged and cloaked in humanitarianism, multiculturalism, as well as manufactured globalist wars and manufactured threats such as global warming and pandemics to condition the public into accepting the one-world government. For this to occur, the elite are planning to create a global financial crisis, the likes of which the world has never seen. Out of the ashes of this financial crisis will rise a phoenix of a new international economic order. The public will be told that the new order is the only way to stabilize the world economy and save what little remains of their process of consolidation, which has accelerated dramatically in recent years. With the global financial crisis in 2008 and the COVID pandemic, the elite have gotten richer while the rest of us were made poorer. When the world financial system finally crashes, the elite will be positioned to buy what's left for pennies on the dollar. Where does that leave the rest of the world financially? The answer is in bondage to a techno-communist world governmental system led by the World Economic Forum in Davos and the hidden hands that control the public face of that cabal. If you pay attention now, you see that everything around you is being engineered towards this one goal. Over the past century, nation-states have been forced into massive debt by central banks to ensure that once this collapse begins, it will create a domino effect around the world. We are currently seeing a shift towards a cashless society, with WF-infiltrated states like Australia leading the way. We've taken another step towards a cashless society as a big bank has confirmed that customers in some locations can no longer withdraw money over the counter. The globalist elite have also been forcing their vassal states to move towards centralizing currency in the form of a so-called central bank digital currency or CBDC, which, by the way, is not currency at all. It's software designed as a tool of total social control. It's easy to see why CBDCs appeal to the far-left authoritarians in Davos. If they can cancel out your bank balance with a single keystroke, then you have absolutely no freedom or autonomy. You are a dependent to the system and beholden to the elites, and the elite are becoming so arrogant they're even admitting about their plans and the fact that it's about total social control. Here is Augustine Customs from the Bank of International Settlements, known as the Central Bank of Central Banks, letting the cat out of the bag. Our analysis on CBDC, in particular for the general use, we tend to establish the equivalence with cash, and there's a huge difference there. For example, in cash, we don't know, for example, who is using a $100 bill today. We don't know who is using a 1,000 peso bill today. The key difference with the CBDC is that the central bank will have absolute control over the rules and regulations that will determine the use of that expression of the central bank's liability, and also we will have the technology to enforce that. Those two issues are extremely important and make a huge difference with respect to what cash is. In case you think this is a wild conspiracy theory that can never happen here, you should be aware that the elite are quietly and deceptively making moves to centralize currency right now in the United States without any public discussion. Governor Kristi Noem of South Dakota caught them trying to change the definition of currency by burying it in the fine print of a 100-page bill. She joined Tucker Carlson before he was canceled by the mainstream media to send a warning to us all that we need to wake up to the agenda and fast. Governor, thank you very much for doing this first and for coming on. Why did you do it? You're obviously under pressure not to veto it, but you did. Why did you? Well, Tucker, it was the right thing to do. I became aware of this bill. It wasn't introduced until almost halfway through our legislative session. We started reading through this bill that was over 110 pages long. It was sold as an update to the guidelines of the Universal Commercial Code backed by all of our financial institutions, our banks. As we started reading through it, we saw the section of the bill that changed the definition of currency, and essentially what it did was pave the way for a government-led CBDC, and it also banned any other form of cryptocurrency or Bitcoin or digital currency that existed. So for me, it very clearly was a threat to our freedom in South Dakota. We are the session that completes its business earliest in the year. We are the first ones to really look at this bill and find out the truth of what's in it, and I did veto that bill. I'm asking my legislators to change their minds to make the right decision and help me kill this bill once and for all. But I'm telling you, Tucker, we've got the same language coming to over 20 other states. I believe it's to pave the way for the federal government to control our currency and thus control people. It should be alarming to everyone, and it's being sold as a UCC guidelines update. There's no rush to do this. We need to be smart and make sure that we're doing what we can to protect people. I find it ironic that we also are having this discussion at the same time we have banks and credit card companies talking about coding gun and ammunition in a separate code so they can track it. So not only can they tie these two issues together if the government doesn't approve of what you're purchasing, if they have the only form of digital currency out there and that is endorsed and utilized in the country, they can control how you spend that money and thus take away all your freedom. If the globalist elite are allowed to carry out their plan within the next few years, most people will have lost all of their life savings. They will own nothing and they'll be forced to pretend to be happy because the elite will have total control over whatever paltry funds the public have been allocated by the techno-communist elite. Most of the world's major institutions were created with this goal in mind, from the United Nations to the International Monetary Fund, World Bank to institutions like KTO, BALFOR, and the Brookings Institute. This is not a future that we can allow on our watch. Subscribe to the channel, join the People's Voice Local.